All right, we are going to get started. Welcome to the Bonnet Chronicles, y'all. I'm going to put the word out. Give me just a second. Doing a little tweet out there and then minimize that. And speaking of Twitter, we're going to get fired up in just a moment, but I want to welcome you to the Bonnet Chronicles. It's March 2022. I am your hostess, Kalari GXC, and thank you for the follow beans. Welcome to the chat as well. I am so glad to see you this week. We are going to get started with a whole bunch of fuckery. There was a lot, and I know probably shouldn't be so petty, but this young man kind of irks me. And it just feeds into a lot of what we're going to talk tonight about reactionary entitlement, this how these youthful people are embracing things whole ass wrong. And I try not to knock people in journalism because I know it's a hard field to be in, especially for people of color. A few years back, I was in gaming journalism. That's why Kalari GXC became my handle. And I never dropped it because I still game, I just don't write about it anymore. But I can tell you, as a woman and as a black person, trying to make your voice heard where most of the gatekeeping is done by straight white men is not easy. So I never try to shit on other journalists, whether they are in war correspondent, general journalism, or like my field, gaming journalism. I try to not disrespect people, even when they go on the side of loony, like Sarah Cressender, or however you say her name. I just block and move on most of the time. But when you see somebody do something so asinine and then try to say that, in his own words, as you can see here, people are just being haters. No, no, no. Mr. Starr, you were an idiot. I know some of your fans, because of that viral video that you had of that Ukrainian man with the Bulls cap flipping off the camera and saying fuck Russia, went viral. You think that that moment of fame is enough for you to act untouchable? You're not untouchable. You went overseas. You had your plan. You wanted to be a gonzo journalist. You did not plan for the fact that you didn't have a contract. You are not working for a major network. What you are doing is your own independent thing, and I'm not going to knock you for that fact. I am going to knock you for the fact that you are in the Ukraine right now that is going through an unnecessary war from a despot from Russia. People are suffering. Resources need to be allocated to the people who need it, not an American journalist who decided to insert himself into a war torn situation. And I know some of your fans wanted to try to jump at me and say, well, he's been there for over a year, you know. But you said it in your own words. This was all a part of your plan. You wanted to go over there. And the seeds of the conflict has been known for most of us who keep up with what's going on around the world. I'm not trying to say that was your hope, because I hope you're not that jackal like. But the fact that you went over there and you didn't have a backup set of currency, you're literally begging people to cash app and send you money because the networks are profiting off of your work and not paying you. Why can't you get a contract? You didn't think this through. And it's not haters for some of us to go, you're asking for money when that money should be going to families, to students still trying to get out of that country that are being denied ways to safely get out of that country, having to walk miles and miles in very unknown conditions. You are diverting from the people you claim to be there to help and making it about you. And we are going to talk heavily about that tonight because there are too many in his generation. These young reactionaries who want to be famous more than they really want to help, but they try to come across as being about that message and being about, being revolutionary. And when the revolutionary centers on your Cash App, I know I can't trust you. I get that times get hard. Some of you have helped me out, and I appreciate it. But if I ever made it where it was all about doing that over what I care about, I want you to be suspect of that, because it's a dangerous slope of when you need help and you realize that you're in a situation over your head. Sometimes do your own making, sometimes do out. But I know one thing, even as a writer, even as somebody who really feels like my writing helps people, I would never put myself or my family in a place of danger. I would never put myself in a place that purposely drains resources from needy people just to say, hey, I'm here to talk about these needy people. And that's where I have a problem with you, Terrell Starr. It isn't about trying to steal your shine or be a hater. It is about seeing the young man who should have known better, a young man from Detroit. And as somebody who lives in Michigan currently, you would think as a black mom, she's not liking this right now. You're being over there in a conflict zone with no money, begging because you don't have a solid contract job. That is not a good look. It's not hating, it's just a fact. You need a better plan. And if people want to donate to you, that's fine. People want to uplift you, that's fine. But I, on a personal level, would rather see them donate money to relief funds for people who are losing their homes to these ridiculous bombings, to people still trying to get out of the country safely, and to those who did make it out but are now stranded in places like Poland and neighboring places while they try to get back to their countries of origin. That's where the money should go. And I'm sorry if that makes you salty, but maybe next time don't go over and try to be a gonzo journalist without a plan. And I hate that we have to get started on such a petty thing, but it was just so ridiculous. And it was just like many things this week. Too many people acting out of pocket. And welcome to the chat, Respect. It really does. The thing that truly troubles me about his attitude as well, and it's a lot of young people's attitude, it doesn't become the fact that this person, really is taking resources from needy people in a war-torn place. It becomes, oh no, you're just jealous of my success. And it's like, you're begging for funds on Twitter. It can't be that successful, dear. Not successful at all. You're telling networks that they're profiting off your labor and you're not getting paid. So where's the success? What am I supposed to be jealous of? Yeah, nah. We're not doing that. And then you have people who are so loud and wrong all the time, like Def Santis over here. And I am sure that people have seen this video, which I told my friend Chris I would more than likely end up being in jail.
You do not have to wear those masks. I mean, please take them off. Honestly, it's not doing anything. We got to stop with this COVID theater. So if you want to wear it, fine, but this is ridiculous.
About the same age as Kiddo. And I've told you, I've threatened people's lives.
All right, well, it's good to be a USF.
Even funny a certain way. But to have a sit-in politician not only yell at teenagers for daring to be safe during a pandemic where we know now, despite 45 when he was president, trying to downplay it, that particles and airborne stuff transport COVID. To call it COVID theater plays into the heart of what I want to talk about, messaging. Conservatives have been downplaying facts and science for so long that they will look at over 800,000 deaths as COVID theater, because they have really diluted their base into going, I don't want to feel this way. I don't want to believe it. So I just don't. They will argue, even on respirators, that doing the one thing that can keep them safe, they just don't want to do it. And men like Def Santis, and I purposely calling him that, feed into that selfish, entitled arrogance that far too many of them embrace. Because it is easier for them, even though it's killing them in record numbers, to pretend like this isn't a serious issue still. Because it spits in the face of this administration that has been working hard to not only provide vaccines for everybody, COVID relief tests for everybody, try to de-stress a the weight that our hospital systems are still feeling from these COVIDiots. And you have these sitting politicians who know they have a responsibility to their constituents yelling at teenagers to take off masks when this pandemic hasn't stopped. It is insane to me that this is acceptable. But I'm not shocked. Y'all seen it during the State of the Union address. The Howler Monkey twins yelling at our president, acting like fools. Now you got people grouping up, talking about how Biden said defund the police. So, the things that happened with Breonna Taylor's killer getting off, how do you like them apples? And arguing with people like me and people like Respect and others who are just on here trying to talk as black people who exist in America, who don't need you speaking for us. And I'm telling you, Twitter was on some shit, y'all. I'm going to switch over to just the camera. There were a lot of young reactionaries that follow me. I get it. I try to be inclusive. I speak a lot about mental health. I try my best to amplify voices that feel unheard. And I get we don't all think alike. But what we aren't going to do is talk about my life in a slogan form and think I'm not going to check you. Because I'm old, I'm tired, and I have seen too much shit for you to reduce my reality to a slogan that doesn't even work. And one of the things that got me, yeah, welcome to the chat, Witty One. Those two human sacks of heat booing the president was bad enough because Joe Biden's speech was exactly what we needed. But to see the nitpicks of people, oh, he didn't praise himself enough. We're not doing that. We had a lump of turd in 45 that did nothing but praise himself and did nothing for us but caused 800,000 plus deaths because he downplayed a pandemic that we could have prevented, but he fired the response teams that we had overseas to monitor stuff like that. But people forget because we had so much shit inundated with Trump that it's hard to remember all the bad because there was so much of it. But to have a president keep focused on what we need to focus on, because we have a pandemic still. We have a wannabe Napoleon invading countries and causing strife. We have job security in one aspect, but we have states that are still trying to roll back citizens' rights and protections. We have a president that sees where we should be and where we can be if we work together. And that is what his State of the Union address was about. Yet there were people that just wanted to nitpick because they're reactionary. They understand that being contrarian gets them likes, clicks, and views. They realize if they're provocative enough or awful enough, people will talk about them, like Ben Shapiro, who you need to keep Kurt Cobain's name out your mouth. Learn how to satisfy your wife or just shut the fuck up and do us all a favor. Good Lord, he's just an awful, odious person. This has been a week of people weighing in on my life as if a slogan is enough. So when a lot of white people, because it was almost all white people and a few ashy hoteps, and y'all know how I feel about hoteps, weighing in on how Biden's saying he wants to fund the police. As if that's a gotcha to black people. As if we don't get to deal with being the victims of crime. And just want society to understand that we deserve to be protected and served just like everybody else. That we need a system that is reformed and has accountability for police officers so that they don't feel like they can just judge us as threats, shoot us in our back, let us die and say, oh, we thought it was a taser and only get fucking 2 years. That woman got less time for taking a young life, for snuffing out a black life, than a woman who accidentally registered to vote after supposedly committing a felony. 6 years for that, 2 years, if she does that much, for ending a life. This is the shit we want done away with. We want qualified immunity done away with. We want a system where cops are better trained. My hairdressers have had more extensive training to get their license than police officers go through. That's why we see so many bigots and really unstable individuals get a badge. Welcome to the chat, Terry and Tinkle. We have seen how some men barely pass or don't even pass the psychological test. That's how the murderer of Tamir Rice was allowed a gun and badge, and he ended that baby's life, and he's still trying to get cop jobs. And it's Tamir Rice's family keeping an eye on that fucker. I think of Ayanna Stanley Jones. That baby was asleep on the couch with her grandmother. The fucker who killed her put the bullet in her brain, lied on the stand. He should have been in jail for perjury. He didn't even get that. He's not a cop anymore, so I guess that's a small victory. But he didn't pay for what he did. And that is what we're asking for. So when you get those ashy guys that want to talk about how Breonna Taylor's killer didn't get any time, but use that as a gotcha, as, oh, see, this is what you get for electing those Democrats. Or when you get people who I normally respect speaking for me about how defund the police is in the same vein as Martin Luther King's push for civil rights. No, we're not doing this anymore. You are not going to reduce my real life fears, my real life reality to a slogan that not only loses the people who could help my community elections, thus putting in conservatives who will make it even worse for us, who don't care if the police spend on military style things, and a union that literally lets cops believe that they're always under siege and that people that look like me are just animals to be hunted. We have to fix the root of the problem. And we have to have more people that look like us that aren't trained to view us as outsiders in this system that we can fix it. And then I watch people attack social workers, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? I get the duality that there are some humans that do a job and they do it poorly, but they do not reflect the whole. And when you're attacking social workers because you had a bad run-in with them, it's not okay, because we need more funding for them as well. They need to be the ones that go on calls when it is mental health issues, unless there's violence involved. And even then, there are so many different aspects that training and funding and more understanding could help better than a fucking slogan like defund the police. But so many people are reactionary. So many people just want to be angry and loud, and they don't care. The whole idea of burn it down has been something the far left have been playing around with for far too long, and they're very loud about it. But I've asked them to crickets. Okay, you want to burn it down. What is your plan for when we need to build things back up? What is your plan to the people who get burnt by you burning it down? Because you don't seem to care. You think you're far enough removed from when the fire's set. But there are some of us already struggling. You already want to step on us using our causes to elevate you, but do nothing to actually help the cause. We are asking to be citizens that are recognized by the police, not as perpetrators automatically because of our skin tone. We are asking you to understand that crime isn't just going to magically disappear because law enforcement is no longer a thing, or because you take funds away from them, thus making them have to go to privatized sources. And as somebody with family in the prison system, you don't want that. The privatized prison industry is the reason why we have the prison to school pipeline. It's the reason why our young men get put into the system so easily. And you're telling me you wanted to fund the police so that some wealthy people can get together and go, okay, states don't want to give you money. Let's add our own privatized system. How do you think that's going to work out for people like me? I'll wait. Y'all seem to have all these answers and you burn it down, but you really don't, because you don't care. And too many young people that you get in and get in your system that's the way. And you should know better, because you know, especially if you're black, you try to act removed from it, but you can't. Did you know somebody that isn't acting right. You might be related to somebody that is literally doing things they know they ain't supposed to do. You have been the victim of things. You know that police are needed, but you also know that it is unfair for them to look at us automatically like our lives don't matter and they can snuff us out. And the best way we have is reform. Funding, training, accountability, and the abolition of qualified immunity. We need people who care, and we need to elect people who will do this. But instead, you would rather play games with these Justice Dems, People Party types, and these slogans that do nothing but give the right amplification. I was excited about what was going on in Texas with Beto winning the primary until I seen the numbers. And thank you, Tiff. She stays on the pulse, y'all. If you aren't following Tiff, please do. She is a wealth of information. And I know that there are still shenanigans going on in Texas, but voter turnout is still not where it needs to be in state and local elections. And we can't play around with this. If Beto loses again to that bigot Abbott by a slim margin, I just don't know. We need people that understand that there are going to be people in Abbott's corner that run those fucking campaigns from Cori Bush to AOC talking about defund the police. And see, Texas has got to be the law and order state. While they strip the rights of women, taking on rights to choose, strip the rights of teachers to teach actual factual history, calling it CRT, and now they're targeting transgender kids. We can't play these games with your reactionary slogans that lose us elections because we get hurt from that. They're targeting my community. They're targeting the LGBT community, which is still my community because, FYI, Black LGBT exist. And right now, Black trans kids are scared because they constantly get targeted by this fucked up society as it is. And now they've got government officials at a local level targeting their rights to be. And we can't afford reactionary slogans that can lose good people the chance to protect these kids. Y'all need to think of the bigger picture. But too many don't want to. And they're loud and they're amplified. They get these podcasts like Cheese and Her Factory. And they spread misinformation and toxic hate. And then they're amplified by the people who are angry at them. And I keep telling y'all, don't make these people relevant. Don't retweet them. Don't screen cap them. Don't interact. Let them dry up. Big Bird trended today. If those of you don't know who I'm talking about, Megan, my dad, McCain. Because she said something asinine about VP Harris. But we know what that is. She's salty. She's hating. She's no longer on The View. So her voice, even when it was on The View, really wasn't relevant. The only thing people ever talked about was how stupid she was and how ugly her hair was. Why are we making her trend? Ignore her. Let her run to whatever bullshit social media app that Trump makes, and let's not keep making her name relevant. I call her Big Bird because that's what she reminds me of. But for her to say that the vice president isn't relevant enough to be sent overseas when her going overseas is what helped 30 nations come together to put sanctions against Putin shows how out of touch Big Bird is with everything and why we need to stop amplifying. She's just a hater, just like the Howler twins. They know their time is coming if we turn out. People like that know this midterms are serious. We came off on taking the White House away from a despot. But we have to keep this going. That was the main thing I took from State of the Union address. Joe Biden wasn't just talking to the nation about the hope that he had for us. He was telling us that he needs help. He needs legislators who are going to work with him. He said, I'll see you to them. He also, and I know I was partially joking, gave me the impression that he had given SEAL Team 6 the go-ahead to take out a certain little Napoleonic despot, but that was just a joke, y'all. Obviously, it wasn't that, but it would have been nice if it had been. Especially since idiot keeps trying to make attempts on the Ukrainian president's life. It is a mess. And I agree, respect. That State of the Union address not only gave me hope, but it felt like these are people that listen. These are people that hear all of us. These are people, I love calling her Big Bird. Meghan McCain's current hair color reminds me of Big Bird's feathers. The thing I liked about the State of the Union address was it wasn't pandering. That is a thing that a lot of people love to use against people who actually want to get the job done. Joe Biden made it clear, I'm taking the piss out of all of you. I am a capitalist. I believe that America was made off of businesses and making money. But I also believe that capitalism is currently being strangled by selfish people. We need competition. We need people who haven't had a chance to have a chance to make it healthier. We need to go after those assholes who think, I don't want to pay my fair share of taxes, so I'm going to go overseas. Not on my watch, Joe said. We need people to understand that I can't do this alone. That I need state and local legislators who will work with me to take on the issues like gun control, to take on the issues like police reform, to go after those who target their constituents' civil rights. That State of the Union address was a call to all of us. And most of us only have to do our bare minimum. I am on the permanent absentee ballot list here in Michigan. I check with my Michigan State. There's a website. I keep getting it mixed up. Old age. But every state has an official website where you can go check your voter registration, check your election stuff, get a copy of the ballot. Our first elections come up in August, and then we have the November midterms. It's important that you know this stuff. Sometimes your bare minimum of casting a ballot could do so much for my communities and beyond. Instead of talking over us. So many people weighed in after the State of the Union talking for the black community, even though you have no skin in this game, literally. And when I see people invoking civil rights leaders to make their point for something like defund the police, when black voices are telling you, that's how I know you don't listen to us. Y'all will chronicleize our causes. You might even commiserate because you are going through some stuff. But you don't want to understand what we're saying. There is a reason why black votes came strong for President Biden last year. Because he heard us. Because he understands that we are not a monolith. And some of us have lived a life of surviving crime and wanting a system that doesn't automatically criminalize us. We exist. Our voices will not be drowned out by your reactionary bullshit anymore. And when we say that slogan loses elections for us, thus hurting us more, that's what we mean. Y'all need to understand this. So many of you don't want to hear us though, because that slogan is easy for you. And too many of you show me how privileged your life is. That you can reduce something as nuanced as needing a better system to, we'll just take money from it. Penalization does not work. It was one of my problems with Elizabeth Warren. I hate bringing up Mima Dean. I wish she would go away. But she is a strong force in how to do things wrong. Still talking about student debt reform in the face of everything we got going. But one of the things that I dinged her on was her ideal to penalize the healthcare system for racism. My issue with that is hospitals already negatively impact black bodies. I talked about it a couple of days ago. Having kiddo was rough for me. I have anemia. It's one of the few health issues that have been ongoing since I was younger. They didn't want to give me an epidural. They gave me the equivalent of ibuprofen while I was in fucking labor because black women are apparently stronger and can handle the pain. I nearly bled out. I crashed a few times. They had to feed me because my levels got so low. I didn't even get to hold my baby before the abusive ex did, which still fucks with me. It took what should have been the best moment of my life and made it the worst. It is probably the reason why I don't rush with Greg currently to have another. I'm scared. The older I get, especially, it is even more dangerous for me to have a kid, and I want one. I've thought about having a daughter for the longest time, but black maternal mortality is a serious thing. And hospitals still treat women like me as if our pain isn't real. And for somebody like Senator Warren to go, well, we'll just take funding. Hospital privatization is already an issue. But to say that you will penalize any supposed acts of racism will just make it harder for people like me to get convenient care. Hospitals will turn us away. Don't think it won't happen. It's happened plenty of times in this country. We cannot afford to have people so out of touch with the system talking about we'll just defund it and they'll fall in line. That's not how this works. And the people that get hurt the most are the people who are already hurting. Exactly, respect. I love Lauren Underwood. I love the things she's doing, and we need more of her. But the problem with people who do reactionary stuff like the Squad is it jeopardizes people who run like her. People like Chantel Brown who's running. We need to rally around and elect these people who want to get to work done. Instead of parroting five-headed Nina Turner, who is only there to be a chaos agent, only there to divide votes more. She's not there to help the community. None of her stuff talks about stuff that people in Ohio need. She wants to make everything a class thing, and that is another thing reactionaries are, because they want the people backing them to believe you're just a paycheck away from being successful. It's the man keeping you from being your next billionaire. It's all Tesla's fault. It's all the big companies for keeping you from being able to do everything you want and not have to worry about it. And it is that lie, that fallacy bullshit that these young ones especially run with, guided by propaganda. And like I said, that whole attitude to just burn the system down sounds really pretty. Real memeable. But the reality of the situation is, if you don't have a plan for that, you're fucking it up for people who are already suffering and you're selfish. And some of you don't want to hear that because you're privileged and you're entitled. But you need to hear it because it's tiring. Your bullshit, as you put BLM in your profile on Twitter and argue with the people that you claim to be about, telling us, well, I don't like what you said, so you will have one less ally. It's like, you were never my ally in the first place, so your threats really don't mean anything to me. The moment you come at a black person with your feelings like that, talking about you no longer have our back because what I said hurt your feelings, oh well, keep it moving. I am still part of the most reliable voting bloc. So excuse me if your threats don't mean anything to me because I already know your demographic needs constant motivation, and that is the privilege that you rock, that you try to act like we don't see, that you get mad when we point it out. I have never once thought my vote didn't matter. Even in elections where we've lost, because at least I have done my part not to throw my voice away, not to let it waste and languish. Too many of you don't do that and then complain when things are shitty. When all you had to do was your bare minimum to make things better for all of us. To get somebody in that could work legislation, that could budget, that could take it to these unions that already give murderers the chance to fucking legalize lynch us. But you won't do that, and then you complain. And then you donate to people who say your complaints are valid, but know that they don't want to change the system because they profit off of this chaos. They profit off of our bodies. They profit off of who's going to be the next hashtag. And as a black mom, I am tired of living in a world where I'm worried about my baby being the next one. That is a reality for so many of us. And those of you who claim to want to help that, but telling me that defund the police will, you don't get it. Because that slogan has lost this election. That slogan is being used against us. We have 12 fucking Republicans currently trying to gun for the governor of my state. 12. And that is insane number to me. But they are doing videos where they're talking about we need to bring guns to the voting things. They are full-on reactionary, trying to make this state into a war zone because they've seen how Gretchen Whitmer has not only brought the revenue up, how her mask mandates and shutting down the state helped us versus COVID. They want to piggyback off of her success and bring us back down. And that is how the right is. They profit off of Democrats' hard work, pulling us up out of garbage and then bringing us back into garbage. And these far left fuckwads help them when they do these little things, talk about defund the police. Let's attack the rich people, because the rich people know the right will have their back, so they back them fully. And then they get these people who think, we're just displaced millionaires anyway, and we need to protect our whiteness, so we'll vote for these fuckers. We need to protect our guns because school shootings don't matter to us till it happens. This is what we're up against. And this is what your stupid reactionary terms help support. It makes my fight to keep the governor who is doing the good thing for our state in her job harder. Because you know these fuckers are going to come with that shit. They, like I said, in last year's election for Senate, Gary Peters, who, like I said, average milquetoast guy, does his job though. Doesn't really excite me, but I don't need people who excite me. I need people who can do their job. One of the ads against him was AOC. AOC isn't in Michigan. We don't even know her here, really. And I'm pretty sure Senator Peters don't know her. But they used her in an attack ad against him because the Justice Dems were the gift that keeps giving to the Conservative Party. It doesn't matter if they have two loud Muppets like MTG and Bobbert, or low-rent Lisa Loeb, as I call her. They legit can take these far-left Dems' own words and use them against Democrats who want to help us. It has to stop. My reality cannot be reduced to a slogan. So I tried to tell Magical Maleficent Grandpa, or the Malware Messiah as I like to call Bernie Sanders. So I keep trying to tell the Warrenites, you cannot just reduce things to a slogan and think people are going to take you seriously anymore. Especially when people are living that life. When we are worried about a police cruiser going down our neighborhood instead of feeling relief. When we wonder if a no-knock raid is going to take us out of the equation. Because there are still some states that allow that bullshit. When we have already seen that no-knock raids, which are murder, can still allow the murderers to walk free because they had a badge. We need accountability. And we need lawmakers who give a fuck. And you need to do your bare minimum to elect those lawmakers. You need to understand that the judge that allowed that person to walk was elected. And that you could have casted a ballot to put a judge on there that would have said, you did not have the right information. Your actions caused the death of a young woman who saved lives, scarred a baby, 5 years old. And that is a memory they will have for the rest of their lives. You do not get to walk for this. But instead, we had a judge that continued to uphold the broken system. And the only way we are going to fix this system is with reform. And I know it's hard for y'all to grasp on that because it's a lot of work. And fortunately for you, there are people that want to do the work. And all we're asking you to do is your fucking bare minimum. And you don't want to do that. But you sure as heck want to be loud on social media and be contrarian about, oh, things aren't going to change. Your vote don't matter. How's that vote doing you? That vote helped me sleep last night. That vote helped me get to sleep this whole year, despite the pandemic. Because we have adults in the room handling things here and abroad. Because that is what we needed. We didn't need a fucking show, man. We had a fucking carnival for 4 years. And all it brought us was death and decay. And now we're trying to clean it up, get things better, and we still have these loud-ass contrarians not understanding the assignment. And what bothers me is that we have intellectual people I thought knew better, falling for this too. And I get it. Fatigue is real. We're all weary. We're all tired. We're coming out of awful times. And I say this utilizing how I felt after I left my abusive ex. That feeling of unsafety and negativity, it's real. I don't want to downplay how you're feeling because I can really put it in that context. When I left my ex in 2005, I felt so elated, but I felt scared. Everything was changing, and I still felt like bad things were around the corner. I didn't date for years after that. I did not trust that I could love again for the longest time because of it. The damage was done, and I was way too toxic for it. And then about 6 years ago, my life got better. I let somebody who is my best friend in, and I realized I can be happy again. It takes time, it takes work, it takes effort, and it takes both of us putting in, but it's been worth it. And what I see is a lot of people coming out of 2016 to 2021 still feeling like that battered, abused victim. Still feeling like Trump has the keys to the kingdom. Still feeling like Biden isn't doing stuff fast enough, even though it's only been a fucking year into his term. And you've got to stop because you are helping keep the system broken. And we need all hands on deck for the repairs. I know it's hard coming out of an abusive situation. You're scared, you're tired, things aren't changing fast enough, and you want things to just feel better and safer. But come on now. You can't tell me that night sleep haven't come a little bit more for us since Biden Harris took over this Oval Office. You can't tell me that it hasn't lit up your face sometimes. Seeing a White House where kids could sit around the First Lady and smile and hugs and seeing the joy. You can't tell me seeing a president that understands I'm not a dictator. I want to work within states because I realize that even though it's the United States, there are still 50 different states that I have to work around and work with to get things done. I am seeing bridges crumble. I am seeing storms ravage people. My country is hurting and I want to heal it, but I am only one man. That is what that State of the Union address was. And I am so sick of the selfish, entitled people that are like, it's not enough. Because you're not doing your part and you know it. Some of you have never really even tried to cast a ballot, but you weigh in on political issues like you're experts. You weigh in on topics that affect my fucking neighborhood. Drowning my voice out, telling me I don't know. I got cops in my family. How the fuck do you think I feel about people that are saying defund the police? I got criminals in my family. How do you think I feel about people saying abolish prison systems? I've always lived with the conflict of knowing that I don't want to see an innocent black body in the prison system, but I've seen people who are by blood related to me that belong there. I've lived this life. So you don't have any right to tell me that I don't have the expert opinion on what I feel should be done. This is my fucking life that you're trying to reduce to a slogan, and I'm not okay with it. Some of these people, you try to come across as a know-it-all expert when you're too far removed from it. I'm not far enough removed from this. The reality of my situation is that 2 years, my baby's going to be old enough to go off to college, and I am more scared of a society that doesn't know how to deal with kids with autism, doesn't know how to treat black kids as it is, taking my baby from me, and I am not okay with that. So I need you to stop trying to reduce that reality to a slogan that loses us elections. And I will not stop saying that, especially during this year where we have so many key states up for grabs. So many local elections that too many people don't pay attention to. It's time for you to do your bare minimum. Turnout needs to be better. You need to figure out ways, if you don't want to stand in line, to make it easier for yourself. If you live in Michigan, there's no excuse. You can literally get on the absentee ballot, no questions asked, and mail your ballot in and check to make sure they get it, because that was the first thing I did. I was nervous. I'm not even gonna lie. I got on the absentee ballot. I was scared, especially with all the shit that DeJoy was doing. We didn't even try to mail it. We went right to the box to drop it off personally. And I checked every day afterward until it was checked and registered. And that is the thing. They register your ballot once you turn it in. So there is literally no fucking excuse for anybody in Michigan not to turn out to make sure that Gretchen Whitmer does not lose to one of those fucking 12 Republican yahoos, and none of our state and local electors. Because we have judicial seats, we have congressional seats, and we have Senate seats all on the line, and we cannot afford to give up an inch to the Conservative Party, or the clown death cult, as I like to call them. We have to be all hands on deck, or we have no right to complain when things turn to shit, because we have seen what these people will embrace. They don't care about facts. One of the things I have seen with conservatives that has disturbed me is the lack of awareness, that their ignorance of people's rights to be, their cruelty in, oh, that person's different from me, so let's discriminate against them. Their spitting in the face of science is what's killing them off. They want to talk about white genocide. Y'all are doing it for yourselves. It's not couples like me and Axiom. It's your own ignorance making you undesirable. I watched that trucker convoy guy sitting in front of his camera on his TikTok talking about, we gotta protect the right race, looking like fucking Jabba the Hutt, and the baby from Dinosaurs had a mutated love child, and he thinks his is the finer stock that needs to be protected. No, natural selection is decided, buddy. That's why nobody wants to touch your penis. And it's not even that he's been, my preference for men are big and cuddly guys, but I don't like bigots. So I don't deal with big cuddly bigots, whether you're a black big cuddly bigot or a white one. That puts me off. Hate is not an aphrodisiac. I'm not a pick me girl. And even those girls really don't want to touch you either. I've seen it. It's been going around. That weird conservative chick talking about, oh, you don't have time for sex? Then your husband should have time for work. Is this the 1950s? Because last I checked, most of us women earn our own paycheck. I'm like, ew. But that's the society they want. They want women to know our place. They want to, allow abuse. They want to assert their dominance. I seen this one, and it's not a meme. It was just a retweet of this Christian type singles ad where the guy was like, I'm a 52-year-old divorcee and I need a woman that knows her place and knows I'm the man in the house. And it's like, this is why you're 52 and single. We women don't have to put up with that. We can run our own houses by ourselves. We don't want any dude coming into our lives telling us that as grown people you get to tell us how to be. I was in an almost all woman house most of my life, so yeah, that doesn't work for me. Equal partnership. And I'm going to be a little bit real. If I'm not happy, nobody's happy in my house. So, semi-equal partnership. Kind of a queendom. And I don't care. This is my house. And I respect my partner. But he's not a child. So I don't treat him like one. I treat my child like a child because he is one. My partner doesn't treat me like a child because I'm not one. The moment you have to disrespect or talk down to your partner, that is not a partner. That is a dependent. And they're going to feel a certain way. That's why so many of these Karen videos come up. They don't have control in their house. They take that negativity and they bring it out to everybody else because they're disrespected in their home. And you wonder why your base is dwindling. Nobody wants to live that life. And for the few wannabe handmaidens that you've trained from cradle to accept that, a lot more women are like, nah, I'd rather be on my own, man. I don't need this disrespect. Where is the benefit for us from that. You got men like Kanye West, and I really hate to like wrap up the cast on this, but he is a prime example of what's wrong with our society. This man has everything going for him, and yet he's so fucking toxic, and he leans into that false Christian narrative that he has to be the shepherd and the man of the situation. And one of the things that made me walk away from the church was that ridiculous set of rules for genders that made women who wanted to be smarter and seek knowledge and have a voice feel like we were out of place within our own flock. I can't mix with a faith that makes women feel like our smartness is a threat. Our voices and our ability to lead and grow is a threat. That is why I gelled more with paganism, because knowledge for me is more faith-based than anything that tells me my place is behind a man. My place is by my partner's side. Our home is a one where we make decisions together. And if we've got to belittle each other to feel better, that's a problem that isn't going to be fixed. And that's why divorce is hot. Because you don't want to come into a relationship equal. And that is not okay. It's just ridiculous that so many abusive types get away with it, and then they say, "Oh, it's the way religion is supposed to be." Oh, yeah, thank you, Beans. That shit was ridiculous too. But that's all they have with their racist bigotry. Her SAT stat doesn't matter. Mr. I Like Beer or Miss Handmaiden, I'm pretty sure theirs was abysmal. But that is how it is when they see diversity coming. There was a video somebody shared on Twitter of these really loud yahoos in Texas cheering fascism, because the conservatives know now they can't compete with us. When we strive for excellence, we do it despite all the hurdles. Miss Jackson's credentials are insane to me. Being magna cum laude for both Harvard and Yale, do you know how fucking smart you have to be to do that in a legal program for those schools when they notoriously don't want us there in the first fucking place? And she did the thing? So fuck Tucker. I'm related to Swanson, so I feel like I could say stuff because I've got a privileged cushion. Tucker Carlson anyway. He's jealous. He could never. That man can't even stand being told to wear a mask. He could never deal with the weight of a society that devalues you and still rise like black women do. If we put all Tuckhead Carson's virtues in a bucket on one side of a seesaw versus Ketanji, she would flip his bucket across the world because he has nothing going for him. He could never. So I don't even let him enrage me because this is all they have. They could never be where we are. They could never continue to strive and shine and thrive in a society that not only devalues us based on our skin tone, but our gender. Because we are still allowing this stupid societal norm that women can't, but we can. This is why Big Bird thought she could say, why we sending the vice president of all people to handle stuff a vice president does? Because they want to try to undermine VP Harris because they fear what we can do. And this is why I said we cannot allow this. We have to support this current administration, and we have to go beyond, because for every Ketanji, for every Kamala, there are still young women out there afraid to find their voice because they're still being told by society, don't be too smart. You'll be single. Man won't like that. And you know what I say to that? No, you won't. I am probably the smartest person in my house. And I don't say that to toot my own horn. I say that because out of the three of us, I am always learning. And I don't say that to brag. I say that because Axiom will tell you. It's not a knock on my partner, and he loves the fact that I'm constantly trying to learn. That is what you should be looking for in a partner. Not somebody who's intimidated by the levels that you go to take in knowledge. Welcome to the chat, Solomon Isle. But somebody who sees that as a good quality and uplifts that about you. I am always wary of guys who think smart women are the antithesis of society. That they are afraid that we're just going to take over and make things bad for them. That think any kind of so-called weakness is a hit to masculinity, and toxic masculinity is more damaging to masculinity than anything else. Y'all do yourself in. Your health problems, your heart problems, suicide rates are all because you put those pressures on you. Instead of embracing the fact that you don't have to carry that load by yourself. That you can be in a respectful partnership with somebody who's smart, doesn't take away from your manhood, but actually could help you. But too many of you don't want to hear that because you've been indoctrinated to feel like, if I don't live up to this role, what do my peers think about me? Who the fuck cares? You are rating your value on another insecure person's opinion. I'm not trying to have this instability be normalized anymore. I call it out because it's so easy to fix. Too many of you have weighed into that bullshit that I gotta be the man, and by being the man, it means I can't listen to my partner because what you say doesn't matter. And you wonder why she leaves. You wonder why we don't want to put up with that till we're old and gray. We want a partner that sees and values our voices, that makes decisions with us, not for us. I don't need a dad, man. I'm not going to be infantized by the person that puts a ring on my finger. I lived that life. It was not an okay life, and I refuse to go back to that life. And I don't think anybody should have to deal with that. Whether you are a woman going through that right now, whether you're non-binary going through that with your partner, whether you're a man going through that. Respect is a two-way street. And like my friend's name says, it's earned. But if you give it to me, I will give it back to you. And that is how relationships should be. And it's sad to me that there are men out there still touting that bullshit about I gotta run things. You run this stuff into the ground. It's not a house where you should be worrying about hierarchy. It's not a house where you should be worrying about looking apart. If you're a good provider and taking care of your family and being a partner, you're respected. But if you got to be a tyrant about it and lord it over your partner while restricting them from earning the right, no, that's not going to work. That abusive control works for nobody. And too many use lean heavy into that because society has taught you that's the way you show that you're the king of the land. You're the lord of your house. You're just miserable. And that misery has been breaking our society for far too long. The fabric is torn. We can see the seams and it's ugly. And we've got to stop it. This toxic erosion of what family means, of what masculinity and femininity mean, it has to stop. But I'm hopeful. I'm going to tell you this before we wrap it up tonight. I'm more hopeful because for every loud reactionary, for every pundit that tries to get on MSNBC and talk about defunding, we have louder voices that organize, turn people out to vote. We have people who run for things like, Lauren Underwood, getting the job done. We have Chantel Brown running for things. We have people like my current governor, Gretchen Whitmer, doing her fucking job. We have a president in Joe Biden who leans into his Catholic roots, but understands this world is changing, so he has to embrace that, and he understands things like women deserve their right to choose. Capitalism has its place, but we need to make it healthy, we need to make it equal, and we need competition. We have adults in the room, and I am hopeful that we can keep this going, but it is on us. We have to vote. For some of us, it really is that simple. And that is why so many people try to talk you out of it. Don't want you to do it. Because it's more lucrative for them to say, see, it's chaotic. Things are bad. Give me money. Instead of, things are good. I don't really need your money, because we're living in a good utopian society now where people aren't dictated by a monetary value, and we've all decided to work together towards education here and beyond. That's the society that I thought we have by now. But instead, we're still fighting over fucking oil reserves. But I'm hopeful. As angry as I get at the loud contrarians, I know they're only bitching louder right now because they see what happens when we put smart people in charge. They see we work around the despots. They see we work around the depressions. They see we work. And they're afraid because they don't want to do that. But we've got to stop amplifying them, and we've got to start coming together, doing your bare minimum, casting those ballots so that we can fix this system. I'm going to get ready to wrap this up, y'all. Thank you so much for tuning in. But I will be back on Tuesday. Health has been really touch and go, but I am feeling good, y'all. I have a good idea of what I'm going to talk about for Tuesday. It involves making sure the checking ballots. But you never know. After this week, I never know what topics are going to fall in my lap. People are constantly talking. Narratives are constantly shifting. That State of the Union was definitely what I wanted to get to the heart of. But way too many people were weighing in like experts on my reality, and I had to combat that tonight. But I want to thank all of you. Oh, also be on the lookout. I don't know if he's going to officially announce it, but a friend of ours, a lot of us follow him, does a podcast. He wants to interview me on Sunday, so I'll be doing that Sunday evening after D&D. So I'm kind of excited about this. I never thought I was an interesting enough person where people would want to interview me for stuff, and I guess I'm wrong. So I'm really excited. So be on the lookout for that announcement soon, and you know, you'll be hearing my voice on other people's podcasts soon as a guest. I'm really, really excited about that. But I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. Go make myself some dinner so I don't get too hangry. I'll be on Twitter a bit later. I love you guys. Thank you so much for it's not Greg. It's why am I blanking on his name? It's his buddy. Why am I blanking? He dates Samantha. I know y'all know who he is. Why am I blanking? I'm having a senior moment, y'all. I'm sorry. Y'all know who I am. Mr. Biggs. You know him. He's a Kansas City native. He has an amazing show, and I will be a guest on there soon. I don't know how he does his interviews, so I'm not sure if he's taping me for ahead of time or if it's going to be live. I'll know soon. We've been in and out of talks for it, but I'm really excited. It's going to be done on Sunday no matter what. So I am so excited to do this cast. But I'm going to get ready to wrap this up. Go make me some food. I'll be back on social media soon. And I will have this up on YouTube. Thank you all for being in the chat and helping keep the chat flow go. You guys are amazing. You have kept me going for over a year now, and I love you. I will see y'all all in a couple of days.